Good evening and welcome to the Town of Belgrade Planning Board. It is 6:04 and we call the meeting to order. Here with us tonight is Mr. Richard Baker and Mr. Nick Socorro, myself, Sarah Langet, and Hans Rasmussen. There's nobody in the audience. This is for Kayla. Today, we have no applications, so we don't need to form a quorum even when we have a quorum. And we're gonna be discussing the CDR buffer requirements. And I will open, should I entertain a motion to open the item? Or I just say, should we go to discussion?
Because
This is,
the discussion.
I'm kind of confused, I'm sorry, because, in the past, 2 days, I have gone to I went to the town meeting, I went to the school board meeting, and every item they open it. Like it's a package by itself. So I don't remember Peter doing that when he was here, but okay. So the discussion is open for the CDRO buffer requirements. So the floor is open for discussion.
I got a question. Is this on the agenda as a result of Mr. Finley's concerns or
It is.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
You have a copy of his letter to the select board, which he submitted. And the select board pretty much said that we need to talk about this letter and come up with a plan or options or whether a revision or, you know.
You guys want
New
like
committee.
a minute or so to read the letter?
Yeah, I've read it.
Yep, you too?
I read it again, but I read it.
I read the letter a week ago.
Okay, let's go over it again. You think it'd be worth it to just read it out loud or just for ourselves? So well, this is gonna be in the full record anyways, isn't it? Hans, the letter,
It's already been to the select board, so it was in their meeting.
okay,
I mean, I imagine it's part of their public
okay,
record. They sent it to us to review. Or not to us, but to you guys to review and decide, I guess, what a good plan of action might be, whether it's doing a revision to the current board or have a different committee, a beautification committee, or George wrote some emails referencing this.
very good email.
I think
Yeah.
You reference that email, you might get a greater idea of what scope this conversation should have.
Yeah.
I mean, George made some good points as far as, you know, the size of Ipswich versus Belgrade and the resources that they have. And you know, obviously they got different ordinances and everything, but I mean, are they saying they want us to vote on it, or is the select board passing this down to us to make a decision whether to have
I
one of
think
these?
they're looking for recommendations.
Okay.
And again, that's me thinking, that's not.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, it can't hurt to have an advisory board, you know, it can't. I mean, if people of this town, you know, they want to dedicate their time, you know, it can't hurt. I don't know about necessarily.
I
We
think,
still have to go by the ordinances, but.
yeah, I had kind of thoughts of if we can even get people to serve on that board, we still, you know, have well, unfortunately, you agreed to come on, but it's tough to get planning board members, let alone a review board, but, and I agree, I don't think it can hurt, but at the same time, I don't know how much, we can't, as long as they're meeting the conditions of the ordinance, there's whatever this review board says it ought to happen if the particular applicant decides he's gonna meet the minimum standards of the ordinance and nothing more, then we can't force it on them. So I guess I agree with Nick, it probably wouldn't hurt, but I'm not sure how much it'll help.
I think one place for improvement is in our ordinances, we have buffers, buffer standards.
Yeah,
But what we don't make clear is buffer areas that have been cleared in the development process need to be put back to a certain standard, not
Yeah.
just left.
in
It's
fact,
buffered with trees and let it go. They should be bermed with mulch and had plantings every, with certain density.
but I do think that if there's a buffer, natural buffer there already, they can't wipe that out and say, I'm just gonna plant a new buffer.
That's right.
I think they've got to leave the buffer and make it mesh with what the standards are. You know, you don't get to clear it and then replant it.
That's right. But if you clear it, you're gonna have to replant it.
Yeah, we'll add to it,
Yeah,
yeah.
So I'm concerned also, as to the, professional requirements that at least
Right.
their committee do have. I mean, you need an architect, you need, these people are, cost money.
yeah.
So, I don't know what, fashion, which fashion they are able to recruit these people, they're voluntary and they happen to be an architect in the community. But, I don't think, maybe somebody in Belgrade is doing that, but, it will be a kind of, commissioning them to come here because they have that specific profession. Most of the towns, committees are run by volunteers.
Right, yeah.
Use volunteering.
Yeah, and who determines the guidelines that they have to follow, I mean, if it would be one thing if someone said, look, these are the guidelines and, do you guys agree with these guidelines, yes or no, or?
One of the things that Mr. Seal, expressed in his, commentary about this letter is that it might be a good idea to invite over Mr. Finley.
Yeah.
And,
I think it's a good idea to hear from him.
yeah,
One, how do they do it down there? And as George said in his letter, he had some good thoughts there. We're a town of 3,300 or whatever it is. And Ipswich is a town of 13,000 or something. And
Yeah, so I'm saying the resources, just
Yeah.
in people alone,
yeah.
for how long the town have been with that population, Mr. Baker?
How about me?
For how long?
Yeah.
This town will have that same population?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, even always about 3,000?
It was 6,000 in the summertime.
Well, yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but going back 10, 15 years, was it 2,000, was it 1,000? I was trying to have an idea of the development curve of
I
the
think when
town.
I moved into town back in the 70s, I think there were like 2,000 or something like that, a little more than 2,000.
So we're doing 15 years. Only grown 1,000,
Yeah,
so we will never be this size of us.
yeah. We've got a fair amount of new development. We used to go down the West Road and there were, maybe 15 or 20 houses from one end to the other. And now you got some subdivisions in there and it's changed quite a bit. I do agree that it would be worth asking Mr. Finley to
Yeah.
come talk to us. And I know he lives down there. I don't know how often he gets up here.
Yeah, I think
I
he will
don't-
be here for probably the middle of the weekend.
Yeah.
So actually, the very first meeting in June will be the time that
Yeah,
he will be able to show up and then we can sauce this a little bit more.
I'm thinking that, one, if that would be a convenient time for him, it would probably be a time where we have more board members here to, discuss with him the issue or whatever. I'm not, I'm not sure that, put it this way, whether the three of us would be the best group to, just the three of us recommend back to the selectmen.
For certain, we need, Mr. Seal and, Mr. Alexander in here,
Yeah,
because, especially Craig, of all the five of us. You know how aesthetic he wanted to be with, when we were doing the solar farm
yeah,
ordinance. He didn't want the fashion of the town to be, twisted with any implementation, of any of that in any way, so he was very, crafty in his mind about how he wanted, these farms to be located and where, to be and not to be, because he didn't wanna, mess around with the look of the town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I agree.
He was very adamant about that the whole time.
It's just, but, it's a balance of, okay, we want to protect the feel of the town too. But, we have to interpret the ordinance, I mean, that's our job, how much can we, of our personal opinion,
yeah, our personal conclusions are one thing.
Right.
Let's say personal,
right,
our interpretation is one thing, but,
Exactly.
making decisions based on what you think or what ought to be
right.
is not what we are
Right.
here to do.
And that's how I interpret this. I agree, I understand where he's coming from
Uh-huh.
with this letter, but I just. You're paying for architects, and then what? They go in front of the advisor, they go in front of this board, and this board's like, well, we don't like this, change this. And then he has to go back to his architect and say, okay, they have to go back and, how much is that gonna cost the person?
And it is one of the things where, here where you said that we would like to see this. Or I don't think that board can say we want to see it this way. We can say they want to, but they can't tell the guy he has to do it.
Right.
He's got to meet the ordinance, but I see this advisory board as something that, is more a board of, working with the applicant to see if they can make the applicant, see if they can get the applicant to agree that with what that board or that group sees as being appropriate, or what would be good for the town that may not be related to the ordinance directives themselves. It's, just, this is a unique situation, unique location. We think that you ought to hide this corner a little bit better or something like that. And, as long as he meets the standards of the ordinance, what they want to see is not mandatory, but maybe they can get the guy to do some stuff that is above and beyond, whatever. And our job is more, do you meet the ordinance or not, standards, and if the guy's willing to do something at a greater, that's great. But, advisory board is simple, so. But I don't know whether, how Mr. Finlay or his group works with an applicant, they advise the board and the board tries to get them to do it, or is it something the applicants try to do? The board tries to get them to do.
It's we interested to know what is the process.
Yeah.
And what triggers what to.
Yeah, I think for sure, if we could speak to Mr. Finley, would be great.
Yeah.
And, if we have our other members here.
So then, I guess, what I'm hearing is that we're gonna table this discussion to,
Plan to have another one.
Yeah,
Maybe not continue this discussion, but plan to have one and invite Mr. Finley
yes,
and have a new discussion, more encompassing.
sounds good.
Was the first weekend, the first Monday of May, or Monday, the first meeting in May, is that one you were originally considering on postponing?
I was considering postponing well, this is the first meeting in May,
The 18th?
the 18th, the
Okay,
second one.
Yeah, because I think really if he does come up Memorial Day weekend, it might be a
First of June.
good time that he might be, able to stay around a couple days. Or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know what he does for work or.
I think they come for the whole summer. The ones that when we're working stores, they come here from Massachusetts and they stay the whole summer.
That's what it sounds like.
Mhm. Yeah, I would recommend we kind of table this issue until the first meeting of May. Invite.
You in
Mr.
June, first meeting in June.
Yeah, it is May. Yeah. And invite Mr. Finley to come along and we should have a good size for, I know George will be here and. Well, actually, which one was George from this?
I think-
Same one
I
you-
think it's,
Same one you did.
The 18th, he's not gonna be here. But I also wanna say that the first, he's not gonna be here. So maybe, I'll get in touch with Mr. Finley and see what his schedule.
Mhm.
And then, decide that maybe it will be the second week in June. Yeah, I mean, the third week in June. is when our meeting is. All right, so that was easy. So now the next item and agenda is all business, and we gotta approve the minutes of April 20th. He does such a good job with this.
Good job. I didn't find anything.
I know.
that,
I know, she does a very good job with this minutes. So I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of April 20, 2023.
I would make a motion to approve the minute. of
April 20.
20, yeah.
And
I second.
and Nick seconded. And we go to vote, Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Sakara,
Yes.
and Sarah Blanket also say yes. So the minutes are approved.
Sarah, do we have to do any formal thing about tabling the discussion on Mr. Finley's thing or?
So do you think we should run a vote for that
Oh,
too?
I don't know. I just,
I-
it was on the agenda.
I know.
I don't know whether we should make a vote, a formal vote to the table.
Well, as an agenda item, we discussed it, decided that we would like to discuss it again with the full panel and Mr. Finley, so hey,
Okay, so should we
we
vote
did
it?
that, it's done,
Okay,
and we just put another agenda item in the future to invite Mr. Finley, and the date he can attend,
Okay,
we will have more conversation.
so should we vote on that?
Right,
It's just,
but we met the requirements of discussing it.
yeah. You think we should vote? All right,
I don't have strong feelings one way or another.
okay.
If we're gonna vote it, I'll vote yes.
So, we, in the, you're going back in the agenda, just to make it in a protocol way. We had a discussion about the CRDO buffer requirements. As per the suggestion of a letter from Mr. Finley. So, we agreed to table that discussion. And I will entertain a motion to, make sure that that happens in the future, to table that discussion. So,
I'll make a motion that we table the discussion of the buffers and CDR, commercial development, CDRO. And invite Mr. Finley to come to a future meeting, which hopefully we may. The first meeting in May, anyway, to
June.
This June. I'm not dense, but, and to further discuss how it's done and how it's done in Ipswich and, how he thinks we should be doing whatever similar to what they're doing down there.
I second.
yes, got it. So, we're gonna vote roll call, Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Zakara,
Yes.
and Sarah for yes, 3 yeses, none opposed and passed. Right, so, the next item on the agenda is CEO update.
I've got nothing but a dead horse to beat on. Okay? And, I'm glad Baker is here, because you were a primary contributor to the chapter 1000.
Oh, yeah, a
Okay.
while ago. I'm gonna come over that way, because I've got.
Well, no, there's nothing to read, I'm just gonna,
No, I just, I'm not, my ears aren't the best things in the world.
I
My
see.
wife tells me all the time, I got hearing aids, but I never wear
okay,
them. Anyway.
I do the same.
Yeah.
Some definitions.
Yeah.
Our shoreline zoning has very limited definitions.
When we say limited, is it less,
Well, it
is
talks
more
about
limited than chapter 1000?
accessory structures,
Mhm.
dwelling units,
Okay,
primary structures.
Yeah.
And what is an accessory structure that has plumbing?
Might be an accessory structure that may have plumbing, I would think it'd be a bunkhouse that doesn't have cooking and whatever. I'd see that as an accessory structure.
What about a garage with a sink?
I think that would be an accessory structure as well, as long as they don't have anything less than what's in a dwelling unit, I would say is an accessory structure. Unless, of course, the main structure, say, is an industrial building or whatever, that's commercial and that he happens to have a house on it. The house may be accessory to the larger commercial operation, but you know, in a case where we're just talking about residential, I certainly would consider something that was had less than all 3 elements of a dwelling unit. I'd consider that to be accessory. Where do you have a particular issue that you're dealing with?
I've got dozens of them. Anyway. I guess that concludes CEO,
Oh,
or dead horse for now.
perfect.
I would like to, I've got some, Colin Clark is coming up next week. We're gonna visit a site.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be discussing
Mhm.
some definitions.
Yeah.
And how they vary from what the subsurface wastewater
Yeah, yeah.
rules are.
Yeah, that's one thing, when we put our rules together. uh, We basically took the subsurface, things related to subsurface. We didn't incorporate all those definitions in there, we said you gotta meet the requirements of the plumbing code.
Exactly.
And,
See, and now that's, I mean,
which
there,
change,
there's some, there are things, people are saying, well, that the shoreline zone says this, but I say, no, subsurface wastewater trumps the shoreline.
yeah.
And
And then you got, I'd say they gotta meet the more stringent of the two. But it'd be interesting to see what Colm has to say when he comes out and. So that's part of our main issue that you're dealing with.
it's become a larger issue.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, I will entertain then. Oh, I was gonna ask you, so you think we should meet in 2 weeks? Maybe depending on what happens next week then.
I say like this week, let's see what comes up, if we can get a quorum and we have a case, I'd hate to make somebody wait a month or 3 weeks for starting a project if they're ready to go,
Okay.
just because.
So for quorum then, for that week, I'm not gonna be here, George is not gonna be here. I thought Mr. Baker wanted that day off, but they.
Well, I did say I would show up if we needed it for a quorum.
Okay.
And it looks like it's gonna be Craig, me, and Nick.
Mhm.
I would be willing to have the meeting
Okay,
and run the meeting
okay.
if we have one. Yeah.
Great,
And I do understand that if you get a shoreline zoning application, especially if it's a relatively easy one, let's get it out of the way. And it's gonna come a time when they're gonna get 3 or 4 of them, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to coming.
okay.
We were
great.
busier in February and January because people anticipated us to be choked up. So a lot of, Doug Frame,
Yeah,
Adam Garner, they got their stuff in so that they were good. They didn't have to wait in line. Now there's no line.
that's, all right. So that concludes our CEO update, and then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
Second before we first did it. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Right, Mr. Baker, made the motion.
Yeah.
Mr. Sakara second. So Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mrs. Sakara.
Yes.
And so I'm gonna say yes, and we are done.
You're the